Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Padilla, and I will be discussing empathy today. Empathy. What is empathy? Empathy, in the most simplified form, can be defined as the ability to understand another person's thoughts and feelings in a situation from their point of view. But empathy is much more complex than that. Neuroscientists have been able to pinpoint more specific regions of the brain that are responsible for interconnections we may feel for other individuals, such as the temporal junction. But how and to what extent might we interpret others' suffering? There have been studies that suggest a correlation between higher level of activity in the insula when we witness other people's pain. Additionally, there is known to be a connection between this and self-awareness due to connection of sensory information in the anterior cingulate cortex, responsible for decision-making, controlling impulsiveness. An astonishing amount of research on empathy requires looking into psychopaths, who are often unstable and aggressive and exhibit violent social behaviors. This is because one of the main characteristics of psychopathy is lack of empathy. Researchers were able to narrow down specific regions of the brain that are more active in neurotypical individuals by comparing it to that of psychopaths, who would show less activity in those areas. MRI technology was used in research and to conclude that individuals expressing empathy showed lower levels of activity in the anterior insula and mid-cingulate cortex. Empathy is a psychological phenomenon, but it is deeply rooted in biology. Empathy, in the simplest form, is evolved from animals being able to express emotions, emotion sharing, or emotional cognition. From an evolutionary aspect, the primary goal of an organism is to replicate. That being said, there are multiple ways shared emotion behavior, such as empathy, might also increase the likelihood of survival. Empathy can be extremely beneficial to our survival as it can alarm us to a possible danger. The perfect example of this is a group of zebras, experiencing collective danger from reacting to one individual zebra being attacked by a predator. The functionality of empathy is important because it enhances a person's ability to understand others. Empathy can also be the ability to make predictions about others. Therefore, understanding that being able to make these predictions make empathy an excellent tool for persuasion. This is a factor that can be used in counseling and even therapy. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a disorder in which a person has difficulty recovering after experiencing or witnessing a terrifying event. The condition may last months or years, with triggers that can bring back memories of trauma, accompanied by intense emotion and physical reactions. PTSD can cause an individual's brain to get stuck in danger mode, even after they are no longer in danger. This may lead to the individuals feeling on edge as their brain continues to send out stress signals. One of the most pressing impairments that has been connected with PTSD is the impairment of an individual's empathetic ability. Some of the core neurochemical regulations that are affected by post-traumatic stress disorder include catecholamine, serotonin, amino acid, pituitide, and opioid neurotransmitters. Each of these chemicals are found in the brain circuits that regulate stress and fear responses. Catecholamines are directly linked to stress response, for example, epinephrine or adrenaline. Too much catecholamines can lead to high blood pressure, which can lead to anxiety. The part of the brain that handles fear and emotion, the amygdala, is more active in people with PTSD. The amygdala is commonly thought to form the core of the nervous system for processing fearful and threatening stimuli. This includes the decision of threat and activation of appropriate fear-related behaviors in response to threatening or dangerous stimuli. Other parts of the brain affected by PTSD are the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. Hippocampus is a complex brain structure embedded in the temporal lobe, it has a significant role in learning and memory. It is a vulnerable structure that may become dangerous by a variety of stimuli. Studies have shown that it also gets affected in a variety of neurological and psychiatric disorders. The effects of stress on memory and danger to the hippocampus. Chronic stress can cause long-term damage to the hippocampus. In fact, the hippocampus itself has been shown to shrink in size in people suffering from PTSD. Studies have shown the hippocampus shrinks down to about 6% smaller on average in veterans with current chronic PTSD in comparison to veterans who have recovered from PTSD. One of the most prevalent features of patients with PTSD is hyperactivity of the autonomic sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. There is evidence of this in elevation of heart rate, blood pressure, and skin conduction in those who suffer from the condition. Learning theory describes how students will receive, process, and retain knowledge. During learning, factors such as past experiences, environmental influences, and emotional influence play a vital role in how we acquire, understand, and retain both knowledge and skills. One of the most applicable learning for individuals such as myself who benefit from hands-on learning is constructivism. Some of the benefits of learning hands-on is its more engaging way of learning. It can lead to increased retention of knowledge being acquired and is a great form of practice in problem solving and critical thinking. But what is constructivism and how does it factor into this? The definition of constructivism states that learners construct knowledge rather than just passively take in information. We as individuals experience the world and reflect upon those experiences. We're able to build our own representations of those experiences and incorporate new information that we take in with pre-existing knowledge. This is referred to as schemas. For example, a child who's young may develop a schema for a dog. They know a dog walks on 4 legs, has fur, and has a tail. If the child then sees a cat for the first time, they may initially think that it is a dog as well. There, the brain, called the medial frontal cortex, plays an important role in creating, retrieving memories for processing information related to schemas. The cerebral cortex is the outermost layer of the brain and is associated with the highest mental capabilities. Consciousness arises from the cerebral cortex, which is where most researchers expect to find learning-induced modifications. In 1949, psychologist Donald Hebb took and altered Pavlov's associative learning rule, which is a learning method for discovering interesting relations between variables in a large database. The intention was to identify strong rules discovered in a database using measures of interest with intention of explaining how brain cells might acquire knowledge. Hebb proposed that 2 neurons fire together, sending off impulses at the same time. The connection between them, which is referred to synapses, will grow stronger. This is what occurs when learning takes place. There are 3 areas of the brain involved in explicit memory: the hippocampus, the neocortex, and the amygdala. Short-term memory primarily takes place in the frontal and cerebral cortex. Then the information moves to the hippocampus. The hippocampus, located in the brain's temporal lobe, is more episodic memories are formed and indexed for later access. Long-term episodic memories, such as memories of special events, are stored outside the hippocampus. These memories are stored in the neocortex, which is part of the brain that is also responsible for cognitive function. Evidence suggests that the amygdala is involved in effectively influenced memory. Emotional arousal activates the amygdala. The activation results in memory storage. NMDAR receptors are a class of postsynaptic glutamate receptors It is located in multiple regions of the brain to include the hippocampus. NMDAR is essential for spatial learning and memory. Glutamate is the most plentiful neurotransmitter found in the nervous system. Glutamate has a multitude of essential functions, which include cognition, learning, and memory. Reciprocal teaching and learning allows pairs of students to teach each other in its constructivist method of teaching that is very hands-on. Reciprocal teaching is an instructional activity in which students become the teacher in small group reading sessions. The teacher will model that activity and then help students learn to guide discussions. Students use 4 strategies for the activity: summarization, generating questions, clarifying information, and predictions. Once students have mastered the strategies, they will take turns assuming the roles of the teacher, at which time they will lead a dialogue about what has been read. Students then take turn playing roles as the teacher. Neuroscientists have been able to pinpoint more specific regions of the brain that are responsible for interconnections that we may feel for other individuals. From researching psychopaths to looking into how empathy can help to alert us from danger, empathy is ultimately narrowed down to the ability to understand another person's thoughts and feelings in a situation from their point of view. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a disorder in which people have difficulty recovering after experiencing or witnessing terrifying events, which can last a lifetime. Trauma survivors with PTSD show social interactions and relationship impairments. Traumatic experiences lead to known PTSD symptoms such as empathetic ability impairment. Empathy is important as it can help you succeed both personally and professionally, and it can be learned, like most skills, with practice. First and foremost, empathy helps you establish and build social connections with others. In the past, empathy was considered an inborn trait that could not be taught. However, research has shown that it can be taught. Most individuals will learn empathy while growing up through observing the environmental interactions of those around them. But what if we could change empathy to individuals who suffer from PTSD? What if we could use the same MRI technology used to observe lower levels of activity in the anterior insula and mid-cingulate cortex in psychopaths, but instead on those with PTSD? So we could help stimulate those areas of the brain. What if we could use hands-on technology of reciprocal learning to those individuals with PTSD so they can learn to be empathetic?